Good afternoon, welcome to the Market Wrap number 125. Stuart Williamson here at the helm. This week I surf around the news outlets to see what's newsworthy, what's going on. Stay away from interest rates because that's going to be next week's topic after the Bank of England has increased rates later today, because it's recorded on a Thursday, 0.75% or not. Now we're going to look at what are the top 20 locations in the UK that are still hotspots for housing growth. What is a heat pump? How's remote working ended? What's going on the property market? Firstly, quick look at mortgages. Although we're seeing the end of the honeymoon period for Mr. Sunak and his government, interest rates and bond yields are improving and both falling, and with it a generally accepted view that the Bank of England rate will peak at 4.75% in June of 2023, down from 6%, which was expected after Miss Truss's experience. Barclays, HSBC, Coventry, Skipton, Yorkshire Building Societies have all cut some of their fixed rate mortgages by more than half a percentage point as of last Friday, the 28th. The average rate on a 2-year fix has now fallen to 6.48%, according to Moneyfacts. That's still very high relative to swap rates, so there's room for further cuts. We had a conversation yesterday about at what point does a fixed rate look attractive again. We feel like a good rate is anything starting with a 4, and that's our own viewpoint. Simon Gammon from Knight Frank went on to say, talking to the Telegraph, as long as stability in the markets remain, you would like to think we will not see lenders reprice. It doesn't feel reasonable to me. I think we will see rates starting in the mid 4% range soon, or at some point. So there we go. Hopefully mortgage rates are starting to come down a little bit. Tomorrow's increase, or today's increase, is not going to help, and we are probably seeing rates going up to 4.75%. Now, I've been very confused myself with all these talks about heating emissions, zero emissions, about heat pumps, about EPC certification. What's it all about? Now, Sunday Times had a great article this weekend discussing main contenders for heating homes: hydrogen gas or the heat pump. So I thought I'd explain exactly what they are, because I didn't know until I read this. From 2024, people in Fife will have to turn on their cookers and start cooking dinner, and there'll be something different about the meal. The flame will be glowing yellow instead of blue. The gas burning on the stove will be hydrogen, and it will emit no carbon. That's the vision of the British government and its H100 trial, which aims to pipe hydrogen into 300 homes in Fife instead of the natural gas used there at present. Now, hydrogen apparently is made by splitting water using a process called electrolysis. When burned, there are no emissions and is regarded by some as a key fuel in the transition to net zero. Earlier this month, a coalition of gas companies kicked off a public information campaign called Hello Hydrogen, very catchy, talking up the benefits of the gas. It's easy to use, it's understandable, and it doesn't require people to change their behaviour. Angela Needle, who is Director of Strategy at Cadent, the owners of the UK's gas network. It can burn in similar devices to those that are already in your home, like boilers and cookers. Okay, there are a number of drawbacks to hydrogen, however, and it has to be manufactured in vast quantities before it can be supplied to homes. And to be truly net zero, it must be green hydrogen, made from electrolysis powered by renewable energy. Now there's the catch. So David Sabon, who's Professor of Mechanical Engineering at Cambridge University, has estimated that the UK would need 385 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity to produce enough hydrogen to heat homes cleanly. Current wind capacity generation is 26 gigawatts. In other words, the UK would need to build a vast number of wind or solar farms and probably a few nuclear power stations too to hit the target. He says it's just massively inefficient to create hydrogen needed to supply homes. Hydrogen is a terrible fuel, it's difficult to pump, compress and to store, and it has a low energy per unit volume. Another option, which has been advocated by the government, is to fit every home with an electric heat pump. This, according to Mr. Sibon's sons, would require a sixth of the energy to warm our houses compared to hydrogen. And basically what happens is a heat pump extracts heat from the air or the ground, compresses it, raises the temperature, and uses the resulting heat to warm up the home. The effect has been described as a reverse fridge. That's a pretty good concept. Pretty cool way of explaining it as well. The magic of the heat pump is that it turns 1 kilowatt hour of electricity into more than 3 kilowatt hours of heat, said Greg Jackson, Chief Executive of Octopus Energy and a cheerleader for the technology. A heat pump does not generate the heat, it's essentially extracting it from the outside world and then multiplying it to heat your home. That's pretty cool, I think. Heat pumps, however, are not particularly effective in older, draftier homes, which unfortunately 65% of all rental properties north of Manchester fall into that sort of category, grade D or below. Another stumbling block has been the cost of heat pumps, which is £10,000, although the government is offering a £5,000 subsidy. So it's hydrogen versus heat pumps, which will heat our homes in the future. Great article in the Sunday Times, you can look at the link here. Do so, because it really is a very interesting and stimulating read. Now, next, remote working. Is it ending? We talked a lot about this, about people moving out of the cities, going into the country. We saw a lot of that going on during COVID. Is it going to change? Is it over? It would appear that it's now changing according to the latest research that's coming out. LinkedIn, the well-known online recruitment agency, they call themselves, is bosses haul back staff as remote boom ends. And it says the job site LinkedIn said that remote adverts declined for the 5th straight month in September as power shifts back to employers, mirroring trends in Europe and the US. Fewer than 12% of adverts were to fully remote work in September, basically as hiring is cooling and we're getting into a bit of a recession situation. So that's 12% compared to 16% in January. This is the lowest level since data collection began in 2021, just after the UK emerged from COVID restrictions. Josh Graff, who's managing director of LinkedIn, said the balance of power is starting to shift back to employers as the economic storm clouds gather and hiring slows. We're already seeing companies freeze hiring and request that employees return to the office. The LinkedIn study found that 3/4 of executives intend to rein in flexible working because of the worsening economic backdrop. So even though there's this strong demand from employees to work from home, and this is cited as remote jobs made up 20% of the ads in the UK on LinkedIn, but it made up 12% of the ads, but attracted 20% of the applicants. This decline in remote working adverts is also matches those in France, Germany, India, and the US, according to LinkedIn. However, Britain still has the second highest share of home working job ads of the 5 countries tracked, after the US. Employees have embraced the flexibility offered by home working revolution, but the shift has led to a lukewarm reception from bosses, economists, and ministers. Sir James Dyson, who you might well know, and former Bank of England chief economist Andy Haldane have been among those in the business world to raise concerns over this shift. It's simply that there are fears that home working can damage productivity and stunt development of workers, particularly younger employees. Ministers have warned that the economic damage done to the city centres by people working from home is also poor. I can see that. It must be very difficult to work from home when you're young in your job and starting off without the necessary systems in place. A weaker jobs market, they're suggesting could shift power back to the employers and allow bosses to rein in these flexible working patterns. You've got unemployment is still close to a 50-year low at 3.5%, but vacancies have fallen back from record highs and employment levels have also started to slip as well. So this may be the way it is going. However, experts have warned against it. Mr. Graff, who's at LinkedIn, says the global pandemic caused the greatest workplace upheaval in a generation, with unprecedented movement in the labour market and significant change in our working patterns. it will not be reversed either easily, as many employees have embraced this lifestyle, and they have. You know, it's a great thing to live at home, work from home, and see your kids all the time. Okay, now the top 20 postcodes where demand for property shows no signs of slowing down here in the UK. Bidding wars are still taking place in some areas, despite the overall slowdown in property prices and all this 30%, 20% drops coming in. I know you're going to say that to me, and I know it may well get some drops, but it's not happening everywhere. If you look at Bristol, 3/4 of the homes on the market have been sold or are under offer, according to Propcast, the data company. This was closely followed by Birmingham, and then some way behind Bolton, Swindon, Basingstoke, Milton Keynes and Leeds. Have a look at the chart below. It shows you all the postcodes where it's going on and it's hottest. Bristol's very popular because it's a really good urban location, very family orientated, and a lot of people have moved there from the southeast to get to the larger spaces in the southwest. It's got great surroundings. It's got Bristol Football Club, Bristol Rugby. Further down you get to Bath, even nicer. So it's a great location to be living in. Other locations are places like Basingstoke. Michael O'Shea, who's from Winkworth, said RG22 postcode always appeal to parents because there are good schools and reasonable prices there. You know, so it's a good place to live. So the point is, there are 20 postcodes that are bucking the trend. They're still doing well. No doubt they will start to come off when recession bites, when the cost of living crisis hits home, those sort of things. So this week, it's all about spreading information as before. If you do like it, please do comment. Please do like, subscribe. Please subscribe, because still only 30% of people who watch this subscribe. And fill in the form below if you'd like more information from APW about what we do. Thank you very much. Cheerio.